You didn't actually want that thing you just bought. Stop and think about the last purchase you made that you didn't need, because what happened in your brain in that moment had almost nothing to do with logic, and almost everything to do with a survival system that's 50,000 years old. Psychologists call this pattern the scarcity trigger, a switch buried so deep in your nervous system that you don't even notice it flipping. Your ancestors survived by grabbing resources the moment they appeared, because tomorrow they might be gone. You're still running that same software, except now, instead of berries and firewood, it's a countdown timer on a checkout page, or a red "only 2 left in stock" label, and your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that's supposed to be in charge, quietly steps aside, while an older, faster part of your brain says yes. Picture this: you're scrolling late at night, you see something you weren't even looking for, and 30 seconds later, it's in your cart, and you don't even remember deciding. That's not a lack of willpower. That's your hunter-gatherer instincts being hijacked by systems built by people who study you more closely than you study yourself. Today we're breaking down the 4 psychological triggers that are quietly designing your shopping decisions before you even open the app. Number 1, you didn't actually want that thing you just bought. Stop and think about the last purchase you made that you didn't need, because what happened in your brain in that moment had almost nothing to do with logic, and almost everything to do with a survival system that's 50,000 years old. Somewhere inside you, a switch flipped so fast you never even felt it happen, and by the time your conscious mind caught up, the item was already in your cart. Picture Elena, 28, lying in bed at 11 at night, phone lighting up her face in the dark. She wasn't shopping, she was just scrolling. The way people scroll before sleep, half watching, half thinking about tomorrow. Then a dress appears. Under it, in small red letters, "Only 2 left in your size." Elena doesn't need a dress. She has a closet full of them. But something in her chest tightens anyway. A small pulse of urgency that feels almost like fear. 30 seconds later, she's typed in her card number, and she genuinely could not tell you why. That feeling Elena had is not weakness. It's not a character flaw, and it's not proof that she's bad with money. What she experienced has a name, and psychologists have studied it for decades: the scarcity principle. It says that human beings assign more value to something the moment they believe it's about to disappear. This isn't a modern glitch in our thinking. It's ancient. For most of human history, resources were unpredictable. Food, water, safe shelter, all of it came and went with the seasons, with the hunt, with luck. The humans who survived were the ones whose brains screamed, "Take it now," the instant something valuable appeared, because tomorrow it might genuinely be gone forever. That instinct kept our ancestors alive. It had nothing to do with dresses or dopamine loops or checkout pages, but the wiring never went away. You are still running that exact same software, except now it's not being triggered by a herd of animals passing through a valley. It's being triggered by a countdown timer, a progress bar, a little red number counting down on a screen, engineered by people who understand this ancient circuitry better than you understand your own mind. Here's where it gets more interesting, because scarcity alone doesn't explain everything. It doesn't explain why some purchases feel almost involuntary, like your hand moved before your brain gave permission. For that, we have to look at a psychologist most people have never heard of outside a classroom, B.F. Skinner, and something he discovered decades ago with pigeons and levers. Skinner found that if an animal gets a reward every single time it presses a lever, it presses the lever calmly, predictably, and eventually stops caring. But if the reward comes randomly, sometimes after 1 press, sometimes after 10, the animal becomes almost obsessed. It presses the lever again and again, faster, more urgently, chasing a reward it can't predict. This is called variable reward, and it is, without exaggeration, one of the most powerful behavioral patterns ever documented. It's the same mechanism underneath a slot machine, and if you've ever refreshed an app for no reason, or kept scrolling a sale page past the point of wanting anything. You were the pigeon, and the lever was your thumb. Now hold those two ideas together: scarcity and unpredictable reward. Picture a man named David, mid-30s, opening a shopping app during his lunch break. Not because he needs anything, but out of habit, the way some people check the weather. He sees a flash sale, prices that seem too good, next to a timer ticking down in red. He doesn't know if tomorrow the deal will be better, worse, or gone. That uncertainty is not an accident of bad design. It is the design. Retailers have learned, through decades of data most of us will never see, that certainty is boring and uncertainty is addictive. A fixed sale that lasts a month barely moves anyone. A sale that might vanish in 6 hours creates exactly the kind of anxious, reward-seeking state that made Skinner's pigeons press that lever until they were exhausted. But there's a third layer to this, and it's the one that explains why you don't even resist very hard. It's called cognitive dissonance, first described by the psychologist Leon Festinger, and it's the discomfort your mind feels when your actions and your beliefs don't match. David believes he's a careful, sensible person, but he just bought something he didn't plan to buy on impulse during his lunch break. Those two facts don't fit together, and the human brain hates that mismatch so much that it will rewrite the story rather than sit in the discomfort. So within minutes, David isn't thinking, "I got manipulated by a countdown timer." He's thinking, "That was actually a smart deal. I would have paid double for this eventually anyway." His brain isn't lying to him out of stupidity. It's protecting his self-image, smoothing over the crack between who he believes he is and what he just did. This is why people rarely feel tricked in the moment of buying. The trick is designed to dissolve itself immediately afterward, replaced by a story that makes the purchase feel wise. Think back to Elena for a second, lying in bed with a new dress now sitting in her cart. The retailer she was browsing didn't just use scarcity. If you looked closely at that screen, there were probably 3 versions of a similar item, priced strangely, one clearly worse than the other 2, existing only to make one specific option look like the obvious smart choice. This is sometimes called the decoy effect, and it works by giving your brain an easy comparison instead of a hard decision. Real decisions, the kind where you weigh what you actually need against what something costs, take mental effort. Comparisons are effortless, so your mind, being naturally lazy in the way all human minds are wired to conserve energy, gravitates toward comparison instead of genuine evaluation. You end up choosing the better deal without ever asking the more important question, which is whether you wanted the thing at all. There's a fourth force at work here too, quieter than the others, and it shows up in a small detail most people scroll straight past. Underneath that dress Elena almost didn't buy, there was a line of text. 340 people bought this in the last week. She didn't consciously read it as an instruction, but somewhere underneath, her brain registered it as evidence. This is what psychologists call social proof, first studied closely by Solomon Asch in experiments, where people literally change their own answer to a simple question. One they could see with their own eyes was correct, just because a room full of strangers confidently said something different. If 300 people bought it, some quiet part of Elena's brain reasoned, then it must be worth buying. Not because she thought it through, because for most of human history, following what the group did was safer than trusting your own judgment alone. The tribe usually knew something you didn't. That number under the product isn't decoration. It's a lever built directly on top of an instinct that once kept humans from wandering off from the group and dying alone. Now picture a third person. Marcus, 41, standing in his kitchen a week after buying a blender he'd seen advertised everywhere that month. He almost returned it. He barely used it twice. But when his wife suggested selling it, something in him resisted, more than the blender's actual value should have justified. This is the endowment effect, and it's one of the strangest quirks of the human mind. The moment something becomes yours, your brain assigns it more value than it would if you were looking at it on a shelf as a stranger. Studies going back decades have shown people demand roughly twice as much money to give up an object they own compared to what they'd pay to acquire that same object fresh. Marcus wasn't attached to the blender because it was useful. He was attached to it because ownership itself, even brief, even barely used, rewires how much something feels like it matters. Retailers know this too, which is why so many platforms let you try before you buy, or start a return window ticking the moment the box arrives at your door. The longer it sits in your home, the more it becomes yours in your mind, and the harder it becomes to let go. Here's the part that matters most, and it's worth sitting with. None of this makes you weak or foolish or bad at managing money. Every mechanism we just walked through, scarcity, variable reward, cognitive dissonance, the decoy effect, social proof, the endowment effect, exists precisely because it bypasses conscious willpower. These aren't tricks that work on careless people. They're tricks that work on human brains, period, because they're built on top of instincts that once kept our species alive. The prefrontal cortex, the part of you responsible for weighing long-term consequences, is metabolically expensive and evolutionarily new. The older systems, the ones built for instant survival decisions, are faster, cheaper, and, under the right conditions, they win almost every time. Retail environments, especially online ones, are essentially laboratories refined over years of data to consistently trigger the older system before the newer one wakes up. So what do you actually do with this? Not guilt, and not a vow to just have more willpower. Because willpower was never really the battlefield here. The real shift comes from recognizing the pattern while it's happening, not after. That tightness in the chest when you see a countdown timer, that's not urgency about the product. That's 50,000 years of survival, wiring, firing in response to a graphic designed by a marketing team. That warm little nudge from 300 people bought this. That's not information. That's an ancient tribal reflex being pulled on purpose. Once you can name it in the moment, this is the scarcity trigger, not a real emergency. Or, this is just social proof, not actual evidence. The spell weakens considerably. Elena, looking back later, said the moment she started asking, "Would I want this if the timer wasn't there?" before checking out, half her impulse purchases simply stopped making sense to her. Marcus started asking a simpler question before buying anything new. Would I miss this if I never had it? More often than he expected, the honest answer was no. You are not broken, and you were never the problem. You're a person with an ancient, brilliant brain operating exactly as it was built to, inside a modern environment engineered by people who studied that brain far more carefully than most of us ever have. Understanding that isn't an excuse to stop paying attention. It's the thing that finally lets you pay attention to the right part. If any part of this described a moment you've actually lived, drop the word timer in the comments, because you are absolutely not the only one. And if this helped you see your own mind a little more clearly, stay close, because there's a lot more hiding in the ordinary moments of everyday life than most of us ever notice.